Alright, Mr. Sako here, and welcome back to another StarCraft 2 replay cast. Today it is a 1 vs 1 on King Sejong Station between our yellow Zerg player Solar, and down on the bottom we have our red Terran player Pult. And I'm going to speed this up to the 2-minute mark, and everything starts to get good in StarCraft 2. And I have not casted on this map yet. It is very interesting, and we will have to check it out in just a moment here. So we have the natural and the debris, and I know it's debris, but it's funny to say debris, and all the good stuff over here, way around the backside of the expansion, and the usual way to get into the base there. So interesting setup. I like how it's just run long line to each other. Sort of reminds me of old StarCraft 1 style maps where they were a little bit goofy, and I miss some of those maps. How they weren't quite balanced all the time, and sometimes you started in very, very poor areas. But that was the nature of the game. Reaper up top here, going after some of these drones. Zerglings giving him a hard time, though. Almost got one of those Zerglings, but pulled it back. Nice Zergling micro there. And looks like he's only got one Zergling kill with that Reaper. Very, very nice micro by Solar, keeping those individual Zerglings alive. And Overlord going to be spying what that Reaper is doing. Getting rid of those nasty unbuildable plates, but decided against it. Just, yeah, let's get him to half health. And now the debris going to go down here for the Zerglings, but that's going to take him quite some time. Bunker coming up in this wide open area here. And a starport on the way for the Terran. A 1-1-1 build so far. And the Zerg just looking at the spawning pool for now. Pneumatized Carapace, metabolic boost going up. And now the Reaper trying to see what's going on in the main base, but isn't going to last too much longer there. K8 charge there. Chucks some of those Zerglings, but he jumps down the... Gets killed by the Queen. Didn't last particularly long. Overlord spying everything that's going on in the Terran base. Another Overlord with that Pneumatized Carapace now moving on in. Once that's complete, just move it right into the base and see what is going on in the Terran world. And some tanks coming out here to see that tech lab. And the Marines shoo away the Overlord for now, but does see that siege tank as well. And now the barracks here coming down on the tech lab. Going to start that STEM research more than likely. Yep. And the factory moved over temporarily. And the starport might pick up and land there. Not really sure what the starport's going to do just now. Picks up the siege tank with the medevac. And now moving on out, but that Overlord spying everything that's going on. And Zerglings and Queen still trying to get those pesky rocks. And medevac is going to fly right in front of another Overlord here. And it's going to boost right past that. And they're going to try and put it down at those rocks while they're being destroyed. And the Queen's taking some shots there from the siege tank. Siege tank is going to have to get picked up and brought out of there. Was a little bit too late to get a lot of good kills on those rocks there. Now has control somewhat, to some degree, I guess, of this corner here. The creep tuners spreading out. And here comes the Zergling flank and picked up the siege tank, moves it away just a little bit. And I'm going to move it to what looks like the other side, but these Zerglings already know what's up, and they're going around to take control of that. And switching up some more of these bunkers here. Putting a reactor on that starport. And this siege tank is really going places, landing everywhere possible. I wonder if it could land there. I doubt it. And a good chunk of Zerglings splattered there. It just drops it a few more feet. Very interesting from Pult here. And now the siege tank has been dropped in an awkward place. He couldn't pick it up for a moment there. And that medevac has 14 health left. And the siege tank doesn't look like it's doing so good either. And now the Viking here are going to be stalking some of these Overlords, getting rid of those. And now getting ready for a Marine drop into the Zerg base. Always have to be Marine dropping into the Zerg. Otherwise, you just allow them to expand over and over and over. And that medevac still just chilling in a hard-to-reach spot. No creep over there for the Queens to quickly move over there. And Evolution Chambers here. Already 1-1 for the Zerg, so a very fast upgrade for that Zerg. 1-1 coming for the Terran, but much, much later. Combat Shield as well on the way. And now 2-2 is on the way for the Zerg. And the Siege Tank and Medevac are no more. And did not last particularly long. Didn't do particularly much damage either, if you want to say that as well. Now the Marines just pouring out of the barracks here. 2 more barracks on the way for the Terran. Another expansion already up and fully saturated, but still needs that gas on either one of those. There goes that gas now. And a bunker in front of that orbital command. And gonna block off that area just a little bit there with some supply depots. Make it a little bit more difficult for his opponent. There goes a drop of Marines pushing forward here. And got a couple creep tumors and an overlord, so they'll be fine with their victory for now. And Spire is on the way for the Zerg. Mutalisks pretty soon. Supply depots blocking off the whole edge there, and might be able to get Zerglings around there. I'm not really quite sure. Again, first time casting on this map. First time is always the best time. And now Marines pushing forward, going to spot all these creep tumors there, and goodbye creep tumors. And now a nice scan right up in here would be pretty nice. A little bit deeper might have been nice, but that's okay. Not like he's going to get that much deeper anyway, as there's a ton of Banelings up there. And Widowmine takes out a couple of Banelings, but suffers a loss for making that move. And now in the base here, some Zerglings have been dropped there, going after some of those barracks. Didn't do too much damage there. That Overlord kind of sweat through, dropped a few Zerglings. Didn't even drop all of the Zerglings. If it had dropped those 3 extra ones, might have actually forced a cancellation of those barracks or destroyed it. And that is a lot of Banelings. Even more Banelings coming in now. And we have a bunch of Corruptors on the way. So no Mutas, just Corruptors. And now it's starting to produce some Marauders here for the Terran. And there goes a group of Marines to try and harass a little bit. And Marines successfully drag some of those Zerglings into the group. And now the Widow Mine set up here. A few of the mines set up in a fairly decent position. I'd like to see this one move up a little bit higher maybe, and sort of lure that way a little bit. But we'll have to see how that works. And Widow Mine goes off. Widow Mine's going off all over the place and takes out that group. But an even bigger group is on the way, so no victory there. And now he dropped up at the top here. Some Medevac dropped a little bit of Marines off here and getting some pretty good economic damage and going after some of these drones here. Going to try and get as many drones as possible before he's got to go down. And there he goes, has to pick up, and it's going to drop now in the main base. And actually that's a pretty decent place to drop. There's not a lot of defense in there. He's going to have to run all the way up in there. And now the Medevac here is going to go down by the mass amount of Corruptors there. Back at the main battle, Marauder got chucked pretty hard there. And just pure Banelings for the most part here. There are more Banelings than Zerglings, and you know it's on when your opponent has more Banelings than they have Zerglings. And we'll actually check here to see if he has more. He's 33 Banelings and actually has 87 Lings in the battle, so has more Zerglings than Banelings, but for the most part, right at that location there, it looked like he certainly had way more Banelings. And I accidentally paused the game there. D is production, not P. It seems so intuitive to click P to have the production tab come up, but it's D. And Marines here getting soaked up by those Banelings, but and a side flank here coming in and doing huge damage, cleaning up the Terran army there. All the Medevacs in retreat now, going back. There's some Corruptors on the way as well. And another big force of Marines here coming on in, and some Marauders in there to soak up some of those banelings. And now going to be pushing straight forward here. Going to try and go around, and decided to come back a little bit as he knew that flank was coming around. Bunch of banelings here being morphed on in, evolved on in, grown in, what have you. Morphing on in. And now the hatchery in a little bit of danger, but not for long. So many banelings. And definitely could use quite a bit more marauders in this group just to simply soak up all those banelings. But without the massive amount of marines, all of that DPS is lost. So the random marauders are just going to have to do the trick. And another stem goes off here, and running low on those banelings now. And having a hard time keeping up with them. The corruptors here going after all of those medevacs. And that's sort of a big loss for the Terran to lose that chunk of medevacs, but here comes a couple of new ones. And now the Zergs falling behind to some degree here. All of these banelings not quite keeping up. At first they certainly were. And Corruptors falling now quickly. And all of the larvae being used for Zerglings to make more banelings. So if he can't keep up with that larvae production, then he's going to fall to this Terran here sooner or later. And an absolute stalemate at the moment, going back and forth here. Now the medevac's going to have to bail out of there. Corruptors just being very, very pesky against all of those medevacs. Now another command center here being brought up. And it could make an orbital command there, not a planetary fortress, which is somewhat surprising. I'd like to see a planetary fortress there, just in case the Terran gets pushed back a little bit by Zerglings and Banelings. At least the planetary fortress will be able to defend itself to some degree. But he's going to have to go with the orbital command for mass mules here. And another devastating hit from those Banelings. And a big explosion there from, I think that was Widow Mines, and Solar GG's out as he just couldn't keep up with the Terran production. This time around, the Banelings weren't quite efficient enough. At first, they certainly were, but then he just couldn't quite keep up after a while. And a good old nuclear explosion. But I hope you guys enjoyed this replay, and I'll see you guys next time.